PowerPoint presentation that the extension agents will normally provide for as a prep for this test, and I was going to go over that today and finish it up on Wednesday to get everybody sort of in gear for the test. We've only got one more chapter in the textbook to cover, and it talks about transferring and moving the logistics aspect of ag chemicals. So it's not a high content area. So this was what I had planned to do after I talked to Melanie this morning. I had originally planned on putting this off until after Thanksgiving, but because of her medical situation, we're going to need to do it before then. So, and Tyler hadn't gotten here, so I'm going to go on and get started with this, if it's okay.
Okay. Well, Jack, I sent you the test.
Okay, yeah, I got it. I heard it hit my phone just a minute ago. So,
and I'm going to sneak out in a minute to go talk to Dixie.
All right. See what the best approach with that is, and then I'll update Melanie when I talk to her. But what we're going to do is go through this PowerPoint that is provided by Virginia Tech, and I'm going to try to get it on. I hope that doesn't create an issue because I can't talk if I do it. All right, give me a minute and I'll see what I can do. I had it working a while ago. Carol, can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
All right. It's going to be a real problem if I can't get this to do the way I want to do it. All right, let me. You guys can hear me now, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes. We could hear you before.
You could?
Yes.
All right, if I make that change, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, there it is.
You cannot hear me now.
Yes, we can.
We can hear you.
Me now.
Yes.
Oh, can't see it.
We lose the audio when I go to the computer, right?
No. But you can't hear us, I don't think.
You may not be able to hear us, but
We can hear you.
we can hear you.
Okay, you can hear me now.
Yes.
You can hear me when I go to that, and I just can't hear you, right?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Okay, that'll work then. Okay, I'm gonna switch back and we're gonna go through this. Get started. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay. There. Okay. What we're doing, Rachel, well, we're going to begin the PowerPoint that is the prep for the private pesticide applicators license. And I've got to work out a little bit of the details on it. Hopefully we're going to be able to get that test for you on next Monday, but it'll be a result of these PowerPoints that we're doing here, okay? And Tyler should be here in a little bit, but this is the set of PowerPoints that Virginia Tech uses to prepare folks for this test. So All right. It starts out with what is a pesticide, and it says it's a substance that's used to prevent, destroy, repel, or mitigate any pest. You know, if you're just talking about the term pesticide, pest is the primary portion of that term, and it's a substance that is used, or an action that's used to repel or deal with a pest. So I'd ask about what is a pest? It's an insect, a mite, an unwanted plant or a weed. It's a vertebrate, a mouse, a mole, or a deer. Tyler, what we're doing is we're going through the prep for the private pesticide applicator's license.
All right, sorry for the delay, sir.
We waited a little bit, but we had to get started.
All right.
And we're going to do this today and Wednesday, and the test should be, we should give it to you next Monday.
That professional license?
Yeah, for the pesticide license. And there may be some changes in that. I've had it worked up for Wednesday, but we don't have class next Wednesday.
All
So.
right, have I missed much?
This is the second slide. So.
Oh, okay.
All right, we're talking about a pest. It's also a fungus, fungi. It can be a bacteria or a virus. But these are all the categories of pests that we potentially deal with.
So basically, a pest is anything that's unwanted in a specific area?
That's a little broad, but yeah, it's something that we can deal with.
Okay.
And as we talk about this, we're talking about the regulations, and all applicators should know basic safety and handling rules for pesticide use. And this is what we're talking about. A private applicator is anyone that supervises or uses or supervises the use of any restricted use pesticide in the production of an agricultural commodity. Now, the key term in here is a private applicator and restricted use pesticide. You can go to Lowe's and buy general use materials without a license. But if you need something that's a little stronger or a little more specific, it's categorized as a restricted use material, and you've got to have some document that you present to the operator of this establishment that's selling restricted use pesticides that states that you are certified in the use of restricted use materials.
I do actually have a question regarding this. Do you have to actually have the certification with you when you go there, or can they just look your name up in a database to find you?
You're going to have it with you.
Okay.
It's your responsibility to have it and provide it. It's not their responsibility to cover your tracks. And some of them don't have access to a database. What they will do is record your numbers, your number, and it's specific with your name, address, and your pesticide number. They're going to record that, and they are subject to inspection by state regulators to make sure that any pesticide, restricted use pesticide that they sold corresponds with the documentation that you were licensed to do it. So certified applicators must attend an improved recertification program at least every 2 years. So you guys, you're going to take this test, and it will go into a pool of tests that go into Richmond to be evaluated. And they may not get to them till February or March. But when they do these tests, they will issue you your private pesticide applicator's license, which will give you the right or privilege to purchase restricted use materials. Now, this is done with the federal agency responsible for the pesticide regulation is the Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA. That's the father group that regulates all this stuff. So, the Virginia agency that's responsible for the certification of pesticide applicators is the Virginia Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services. It's abbreviated by VDACS, right? Product label. We've talked about product label all the semester. It says it contains the directions for pesticide users are legally required to follow. Now, there's key there. You're supposed to legally follow those things on the label. It's a legal agreement between the EPA, the product manufacturer, and the user. It's three bodies in there that all have legal requirements. tells if a pesticide is registered for a particular use. The EPA blank blank identifies the facility where the product was made. We talked about that. You had that on a test. Oh, you should.
No.
Establishment number. It tells where it was made. That's what means the establishment. That's where the product was manufactured. So, and that's key to the tracking of these things. So, it says now the blank blank must list the chemical name, common name for each active ingredient and its percentage of the product. That's the ingredient statement.
Questions like this one down the thing.
There's a good chance there'll be questions like this on the thing. They're multiple choice. And you'll have a test booklet. They'll have the questions and then 4 choices. And you've got a little ScanCron card that you'll have to bubble in. Yeah, a little bubble card. Okay. Now the blank blank on the pesticide label indicates how acutely toxic the pesticide is to humans.
Wording the same thing.
Signal word. Remember those? What were the signal words?
Toxic, hazard, the other things.
No, it's caution, danger, warning, caution, danger, and danger with skull and crossbones.
So danger and danger with skull and crossbones are 2 separate things?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
They are. They're levels of toxicity. Okay. The blank blank is how a poisonous pesticide is to an animal or human after a single dose. Acute toxicity. Acute means single, just rapid. The blank blank is how poisonous a pesticide is after a small repeated dose over a period of time. That one's chronic toxicity. Okay? Acute is one shot quick. Chronic is an build up over time. The type and amount of active and inactive and solvent ingredients and the type of formulation are determine the toxicity of a pesticide. Hazard is equal to, we talked about this, exposure times the toxicity. If it's extremely toxic and you're not exposed to it but a very short period of time, the hazard is minimal. But if you're exposed over a longer period of time, the toxicity is much greater, or the hazard is much greater. So if we're talking about that, so those are examples. Each time you apply pesticides, you should avoid non-target organisms and surfaces, operate equipment safely, deliver the pesticide to the target, check for appropriate delivery rate. We talked about that a little bit last.
Delivery rate being the appropriate amount of pesticide that you're applying to it correctly.
Yeah, it's a lot of things in delivery rate.
Okay.
All right. Cholinesterase level is the level that which is necessary for your nervous system to work properly. Okay? That's something that you have that keeps your body going constantly. It's the cholinesterase enables the nerve synapses to work. That's just like if you're looking at a spark plug in an automobile. The cholinesterase is the spark that allows the automobile to function. It allows it to
Does
go.
all this stuff attach your synaptic systems?
Oh yeah, I told you that earlier. Okay, highly toxic chemicals attack the cholinesterase, and the lower the necessary level it needed to live. So some of these things are accumulate and affect cholinesterase. So Overexposure could kill. You should always have your cholinesterase levels checked during the spray season if moderately or highly toxic chemicals are used much. That one's a serious one. And there's certain families of chemicals that affect cholinesterase levels. And it tells you on the label as we talk about these things. So, all right. Direct supervision of a pesticide application means on-site supervision. So if you're a certified applicator and have someone working for you under your supervision,
Right there watching
you're supposed to be there close by. It said when supervising other pesticide applicators, be sure that they are instructed about the hazards of pesticide use. Application rate is the amount of the pesticide sprayed divided by the distance covered. So we talked about that a little bit the other day. That's the amount sprayed divided by the distance covered. Equipment should be properly calibrated before use. And we talked about that a little bit, talking about the calibration. And that's one of the tougher things that we'll address all semester. To clear or clean a hose or nozzle or jet orifice, a small nylon brush should be used.
I think a small nylon brush is something we need to keep in mind.
Yeah, that would be. And if you need a picture of a small nylon brush, a toothbrush is a small nylon brush. Okay? All right, we talked about calibration the other day. So we're talking about an example of calibration. A quart per 500 square feet is applied. The label recommends or calls for a gallon per 1,000 square feet. So this was a typical example of what you're going to have on the test. All right, it says a quart per 1,000 square feet is applied. The label calls for a gallon per 1,000 square feet. Do we need to calibrate this piece of equipment further?
Yes.
What will we need to do?
If I had to guess for this, you would need to restrict the flow.
Yeah.
So it's not dumping quite as much out in
Yeah.
small amounts. Specifically, you need to calibrate it to double it out from what it currently is.
Double it out?
No, 2 quarts would be enough.
That's
4 quarts, 2 gallons.
Unless they changed it since this morning, there's 4 quarts in a gallon.
So then you would need to triple it. No, that would only be quadruple it.
For 1 gallon, 4,000 square feet.
But that's, you're looking at the
You would use 1 quart for 200.
actual amount, but look at your area too.
Yeah, because I'm setting it's 1 quart applied to 500 feet. If you did that for 1,000 square foot, it would only be 2 quarts. If it's calling for a gallon.
Is that right, Rachel? Now, this is a question that'll come up. Yeah, you'll need to come up with a mechanism to
Slow it down.
well, if you're applying it on 500 square feet and the rate is for 1,000 square feet on the label, so you're going to need to reduce the volume of that so that you're applying, or you need to increase your.
Oh, I see what I did wrong.
Okay.
You're not applying it to 1,000 square feet. You're applying it specifically to a 500 foot area. You need to adjust it for that. Okay.
Okay. So a quart per 500 square feet, 2 quarts per 1,000 square feet. Okay. 4 quarts in a gallon. 4 divided by 2 is going to give you 2 quarts on the 1,000 square feet, or a half a gallon on your 1,000 square foot. All right.
Yes.
Not enough mix was used, is what it says. So we would have to adjust it that way. Label directions call for 3 pints per acre. Ground application used 20 gallons per acre. How much chemical and water is needed to spray 5 acres? All right, let's think about it a little bit. Now, this is a very typical question that you're going to get. It says how much chemical and water is needed. So let's address the water aspect of it first. Your ground sprayer uses 20 gallons of water per acre. You got 5 acres to spray. So how much water are you going to need? You're going to need 100 gallons on the 5 acres. Okay. Your rate is supposed to be 3 pints per acre. So how much material are you going to need to put on for 5 acres?
How many pints are in a gallon?
Tyler?
I don't remember these things. I've never had a use for them. I'm sorry.
There's 8. Right. If you think about it this way, there's 2 pints in a quart, 4 quarts in a gallon. So you got 8 pints in a gallon. Okay. So you're going to need to put on 3 pints on an acre. You got 5 acres to cover. So you're going to need to put on how much? How many pints? 15 pints. You think that's right? 15 pints on 5 acres. Yeah, that's what we're looking at. 15 pints in that solution.
That was literally just simple math.
That's what most of these are. They're simple math. But you got to go the simple math in the right direction. Okay? And this is just one of the things that you deal with dealing with this stuff. Okay?
I'm sitting here trying to work out exactly how much you would need when it was just a simple answer.
Well, that's the way a lot of them are. And this test is going to be given so that you'll have 4 choices. And 2 of them are going to probably obviously be incorrect, but there'll be 2 that look close. So, if a pesticide is spilled on someone's skin, you should immediately rinse with plenty of water. Penetrants and oil may allow faster movement through the skin. To help prevent heat stress, you should have plenty of drinking water on hand. Take periodic breaks. Now, this is when we're talking, a lot of this we're talking about with heat stress is when we've got on this PPE, this personal protective equipment. A lot of this stuff is polyethylene or polyurethane, and it doesn't breathe at all. You don't want it to breathe at all if you're using it as protective equipment, because it's you want that protective layer to prevent this pesticide from reaching your skin or your body. So you don't want it to breathe. So, to prevent heat stress, you drink plenty of water or have it on hand and take periodic breaks. This can be cumbersome, particularly on the type of application that you're doing. If you're doing it by hand or it's in the heat of the middle of the summer and it's hot, you have to deal with this sort of stuff. Heat stress symptoms include fatigue, headaches, nausea, chills, clammy skin, heavy sweating. Okay, so those are examples of heat stress. Hopefully you all have not experienced heat stress and haven't had to deal with it.
I have before, but not fun.
No, it's not fun. It's not fun. And if you ever get overheated, it takes a while for you to recover from that. It's not a quick recovery.
Like heat stress, it took me about an hour to recover from it.
Sometimes it takes you days. All right, mixing and loading and application of pesticides are primary handling tasks. You see on the label, it'll talk about mixers or handlers. That's who we're talking about, is the handlers that do the mixing, loading, and application. And they're the most hazardous task. Why are they considered the most hazardous?
Because you're having to move the stuff around and put it into the container and then take it out of its initial thing, that really makes you more exposed to it as opposed to being on the business end of it.
That's correct. But at that point, you're dealing with the most concentrated, the material straight out of the manufacturer's product. And that's, no, they haven't been diluted to be applied. So that's what we're talking about. Tank mixing multiple products is legal unless it is prohibited by the label. Now, I had one little girl in a class a couple of years ago that had all grades of complications with the term tank mixing. She could not comprehend what we meant by tank mixing.
You dump multiple things in there and stir it.
Well, you don't really stir it. It's the machine, whatever application equipment you have should provide an agitation, unless it's just a handheld machine, and then you'll shake it up. You won't do much stirring. Stirring is dangerous because you're putting something, huh?
Does it potentially splash up?
Yeah, splashing up, and you're dealing with it. That's not what you want to do. You want to use the mechanical agitation that
Shake it.
Yeah, shake it or something like that. So. All right, so some pesticide mixtures are difficult or impossible to apply because they form lumps or gels or separate out. Another term for separate out is butter out. But that means that it sort of creates a glob and it doesn't mix together and doesn't go into solution. These mixtures are considered to be incompatible. A lot of the older formulations that contained oil bases did not mix well with certain types of wettable powders. So, it was a problem to do and present. All right, it says weeds can be divided into 3 different types, and we talked about these early in the semester. Annuals, biennials, and perennials. Annual meaning a crop or a plant that come up and grow in a single season. It'll germinate, produce a plant, and then produce seeds, and it will die. This weather we had this weekend took away all the annual crops that existed in our area. The freezing temperatures killed them. So that was the end of our growing season. And if we're dealing with a biennial, you're dealing with 2 years of production. It will germinate and grow to a particular point, then it will overwinter and then produce a seed stalk the second year. That's what
the perennials are, they stick around forever until you kill them.
Well, perennials are more woody type plants, and they takes them 2 or more years to produce a seed. All right. IPM stands for Integrated Pest Management, and it involves biological, cultural, mechanical, and chemical means of controlling pests.
Isn't this what's acceptable?
What?
Isn't this what's the acceptable means of dealing with pests?
It is not. You're using the term "is acceptable." It is. No. It is a more scientific method of controlling different pests. It's an approved method, although just a regular chemical application without the IPM was the old standard that used to be used. But now IPM is a more science-based, because you involve the biology of the particular plant or animal or insect. You want to select the point in its life cycle when it's most vulnerable to being eliminated or adjusted, either by a cultural or a mechanical or a chemical means. So it's a multifaceted approach to controlling pests. You've got to have a science-based deal to know when it's best to try to control it. If we're dealing with weeds, morning glories, for example, if you can control them when they're at the initial germination stage, when those first two little seed leaves come up, it's a lot easier to control a morning glory then than it is after it begins to run and elongate, because at that point it's established a taproot, and it's almost impossible to kill a morning glory once it establishes that taproot. You can cut it off, but it's going to come back and grow again.
I mean, the only way to deal with that is to dig it straight out of the dirt.
You can do that. That would be a cultural mechanism, or a mechanical mechanism, either one. So, that's what we're talking about with these different facets of IPM. It's using. I'm going to lose my voice here in a minute. It's using different tactics to control pests. Tends to cause the least disruption to living organisms and other surroundings at the treatment site. So that's what we're talking about with an IPM system. Sanitation, food and water supply control, host resistance are part of IPM strategies. Now, sanitation, we're talking about, if you've got some sweet corn that you grew this summer, before we had this killing frost, you'd still have some little kernels or little ears of corn that were there that the corn earworm would be still eating on and growing and producing more worms that would overwinter for next year. So sanitation would be taking those old corn stalks out. You're mowing that off. You're cleaning that up. That would be the elimination of the food supply for this corn earworm. That would be a mechanism of doing that. So, that's two of the things that we're talking about with host resistance. Okay, we're about halfway through that slide presentation. Do you have any questions at this point about what we were doing, Carol or John, either one?
No, sir.
Okay. This is what they're highlighting here is just an example of what's going to be on this test. And I'd recommend that you as we get ready for it, when Tom and I will work out the details on how you guys are going to get to test, but we'll get you prepared for it and see what we're going to do. Tom, did you find out anything from Dixie about what's the best mechanism for you guys?
What she's thinking is she's gonna send an email to the 3 or 4 students that are not actually here.
Okay.
To see, because like I say, it may just be working with maybe somebody Pennsylvania County, if, like Timothy can't actually come out to PH when y'all do it.
Okay.
Or coordinate with somebody in Halifax, and then can I give the test here, or does the extension agent need to be here?
That's one of the technicalities that has come up in years past. I have done it here, but apparently there's a little bit more concern based on the extension service about having one of the extension personnel proctor the test.
Okay.
And it's, in years past, I would have said yes. And that was one reason that I volunteered when we started talking about this, that I thought I might be able to bring it down there and do it. But from the discussion with Melanie this morning, I think that may be create a little bit of question. So we may not be able to do that. Okay.
So if I can't do it, then we'll try to coordinate. Dixie will coordinate with Lindy,
Okay.
the extension agent around here. So
Okay.
But in the worst case, deal with 3 of them, and we may have to have the students set a time
Okay.
and take the test with them outside of that.
And in Timothy's situation, I'm sure he can go to the extension office on Kings Mountain Road and as a test site instead of doing it because their administrative assistant is qualified as a proctor for the test.
Okay, that's how often they could take it if you could just sort of walk in and.
Yeah, what do we have to show?
But you'd have to have an ID.
You'd have to have an ID and do it, yeah. But I've got to work out some details with Melanie, because I initially had her plan to come over here on next Wednesday, but we're not open on Wednesday, so we'll try to do it, probably next Monday if she can. If not, we'll work out an alternate arrangement and have Donna come and do it. We just don't want to, we have a great working relationship with those folks, and we don't want to abuse it. So
Oh, yeah.
that's kind of what I was doing. But we'll just plan on finishing this PowerPoint on Wednesday, and you guys help me think if there are any other issues or problems that we might have with doing this, and then we'll use the rest of the time this semester to do a few more calculations, and then I'll go over that last chapter. But we're about to get through this hurdle for this class.
Okay.
Okay. All right. We'll call it off for today and try to finish it up on Wednesday. Get Tyler here on time, Rachel here, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed.
Okay.
And I'll try to email Timothy and see what he might want to do.
Okay. Or Dixie may be mailing him too.
Yeah, that'll work either way. All right. You guys have a good day.
Okay.
Good
You
day.
too.
Thank you.